Would you like to get the best kinetic sniper in the game? Well, that sucks because you can't anymore. Or maybe you want to get the best kinetic shotgun in the game. Oh, well, you can't get that either. Bungie has been making the same huge mistake with the loot table for years now, and it's starting to drive me a bit nutty. They love to introduce something that is incredibly powerful but only obtainable for a short period of time, and then they yoink it out of the game so the people who either didn't play when it was available or didn't get blessed by RNG are just out of luck. This is the core issue of FOMO, fear of missing out, and Bungie has claimed that they want to get away from this model, but somehow they keep making the same mistake over and over again. For example, I'd absolutely love to use my current favorite hand cannon, the PALINDROME, with the Eye of Soul god roll that my friend Shadow has on his account. Unfortunately though, I wasn't so lucky. I played trials basically every weekend where that sniper roll is available, but RNGesus decided instead to bless my account with that signature Pattycakes roll of hipfire grip and box breathing over and over again. Then last season, Bungie took the Eye of Soul out of the loot pool for trials entirely, so you couldn't obtain one at all if you didn't already have one. And then this season, they reintroduced it, but they changed up the possible perks. So now even if I play trials until my eyes bleed, I still can't possibly get that same spicy roll with snapshot opening shot that's oozing with aim assist. This is a problem to me because with Bottom Dollar, Igneous Hammer, and the Palindrome introduced last season, and then new favorites like the Shadow's Wrath and Grid Skipper being introduced this season, there are finally tons of awesome energy slot weapons that would be a perfect pairing with the Eye of Soul god roll. If you didn't get lucky a few months ago, you're now forever locked out of that loadout choice, which could very well be the strongest sniping setup in the game. If you match up against an equally talented opponent who happened to get that god roll, how can you feel that luck isn't playing at least a small part when you lose the sniper duel against that more magnetic sniper roll? This isn't the first time we've had this situation, far from it actually. There are plenty of examples that I'll go through in a second. I want to be clear, this isn't to say that Bungie isn't doing a great job at introducing new awesome weapons into the loot pool. There are several out there that I'm super excited to acquire in Season 14, especially some of the new weapons from Vault of Glass. My point though is that it's frustrating when something is potentially the best roll out there and you can't get it anymore because of bad luck. A very similar situation played out a few months ago with the kinetic shotgun Astral Horizon. Astral was the only kinetic shotgun in the game that could roll with quick draw and opening shot, a god tier perk combo on high impact shotguns. I was lucky enough to get this combo on the ADEPT version of Astral, arguably the best shotgun in the game. But then the next season, Season of the Chosen, Bungie decided to change up the perk pool and Astral could no longer roll with quick draw. So for an entire season of PvP, I had nearly the god roll shotgun that was completely unobtainable to players who didn't get lucky in the previous season. You can imagine the frustration players experience when they go to pull out their shotgun and then the enemy kills them by just a few frames faster because their shotgun had a better roll. To me, this is unacceptable for balance in PvP, something that we're already struggling to acquire thanks to the plethora of overtuned abilities running rampant. We don't need unobtainable weapons adding gasoline to the fire. Now in Season 14, Bungie changed up the perk pool again and quick draw is no longer available on Astral. If you already had a quick draw roll, that perk has now transformed into surplus. Overall, this decision was met with some controversy based on whether or not you thought the quick draw belonged on high impact shotguns in the first place. But outside of that debate, we're missing another critical piece of information. We now have another potential god roll Astral that's not obtainable anymore. Look at this roll that my friend Prof has, with max range, full choke, threat detector, and opening shot. Threat detector here is awesome because it works kind of like a poor man's quick draw when you're up close, and you mostly care about swapping quickly to a shotgun in close range battles anyway. But unfortunately, this roll is also now unobtainable. You can no longer roll threat detector on Astral. Yes, you can get surplus now, but that loses its value when you're actively using your abilities, and let's be honest, Destiny 2 is basically an ability spam simulator these days. Most good players are nearly using their abilities as soon as they come off of cooldown. We also had a similar situation play out last year with the Felwinter's Last shotgun, even though it featured a static roll. Felwinter's was available for a short time in Season of the Worthy, and then taken out of the loot pool the next season. I had months of time where new players would come into my live streams asking me what the best shotgun setup was for PvP. Time after time I had to explain that unfortunately for them, the best shotgun in the game was no longer available for some reason, and they were going to have to settle with something that was worse until Felwinter's became available again. This is a major turnoff for new players trying to get into Destiny. How can you explain to a new Counter-Strike player that they can't use the AK-47 anymore because they didn't happen to play during the 2 months where it was briefly available? To me, this is a massive barrier to getting new and returning players to stick with an already complicated and intimidating game. We need to reduce the barriers to getting players invested, not make it harder. I could go on and on with more examples. My favorite sniper rifle in the game, Beloved, which can roll with quick draw and snapshot, is no longer available to new players. This insane combination of perks allows you to switch weapons fast and then scope in with your sniper almost instantly, which gives you some incredible potential as you grow as a player. This one doesn't sting quite as badly since Beloved is sunset and it can't be raised up to the current highest power. Having this limitation mostly keeps it out of activities like trials, but it's still a frustrating experience. You could say the same thing about AUSTRINGER, my current favorite kinetic hand cannon. Another incredible gun that works so well in the current meta, but unfortunately it's not available to players who didn't grind out the menagerie seasons. As much as I hated sunsetting overall, and I'm really glad that Bungie decided to reverse that decision, it does sting less for players who can't get these guns if they aren't applicable for endgame activities. This introduction of items that are incredibly strong and then become unavailable is something that's repeated over and over again as a pattern, and it does concern me for the future of Destiny if we can't get it in check. I can see the counter-argument that this is just another aspect of game design, and introducing this FOMO keeps players grinding away in case someday these items can't be obtained anymore, but personally I hate this take. I think that Destiny is best when new players are incentivized to get into the game and become invested. Anything that deters new players from wanting to stick around is a big problem to me. We already have issues with a waning player base from time to time, and it's in our best interest as a community to encourage Bungie to make the game more attractive to new players. We don't want a situation where new and returning players feel it's impossible for them to catch up. At worst, this leads new community members to feel hopeless in PvP and feel the growth of their character is artificially limited simply because they heard about the game at a later point in time. We need to abolish FOMO as a tool to keep players playing. Now, I'll be straight with you, I'm no game designer or developer, and I won't pretend to know the best course of action here. But as a player who has sunk an incredible amount of time into the franchise and deeply wants it to succeed, I know something has to be done. If you have any ideas, be sure to post them in the comments down below. I'm really curious to hear what you think about this topic. My knee-jerk reaction here is to create some different kind of incentive to play. For me, there's so much more in Destiny, which is worth coming back to every season. I liked how the menagerie for a short period of time awarded a crazy 5 drops per completion, which made it really worthwhile to play during that time frame. If you didn't happen to get what you wanted during that period, the loot was still able to be obtained later, just a bit more labor intensive to grind out. That was at least until Beyond Light came out and they decided to nuke the activity. I know this is a complicated issue to solve, and Bungie felt it was necessary to remove parts of the game to make room for new activities and destinations. I won't fight them there, and I think we have to take their word on it that doing so was in the best long-term interest of the game. However, where I do think we can make easy progress is to stop changing the perk pools on weapons that are currently obtainable. If we're going to introduce something like the Astral Horizon, it should be obtainable with the best possible perk combinations for every player, even if they get a late start. Doing so both mitigates problems of FOMO and poor luck with RNGs. Another thing that would be fantastic to add to more activities is the end of scenario token turn-in box that allows you to acquire items from that activity. By saving up enough tokens, you're able to both mitigate RNG to either acquire something that hasn't dropped organically from a scenario for you, or to spend your tokens to focus farm for a particular role that you'd like on an item. This is a brilliant system that should be implemented across the entire game for any endgame activities. Why don't we have something like this for Iron Banner, for every existing raid, and for trials? I've been chasing particular roles from old raids for years now that still haven't dropped organically. I think the system is an excellent way to improve the game and incentivize players to invest their time. Thinking backwards, if we had a system like this for trials back when that God Roll Sniper was around, I'd probably have it in my inventory now. I guess for the time being, we can only do our best to prep for future changes. If I had to make a quick recommendation, I'd say go check out the Messenger Pulse Rifle, which is currently one of the best guns in the game. Check out my recent Messenger review video and see why you should hunt for a God Roll. It's the video on the top right of your screen and also linked in the description.